We're live on YouTube, and it looks like we are live on Instagram. So, to everybody out there, hello, hola, Konnichiwa, Salaam, Ciao Namaste. Peace to all. This is the Pink Elf in the Room conversation, and what we will be discussing for tonight, for today, is about the distraction of the mind. What keeps the mind distracted? And before we start, just to everybody out there, if you feel you connect to what I'm talking about, if you feel this resonates with you, don't hesitate to comment. Don't hesitate if you feel connected to it to like or give hearts so I can understand how you guys are feeling about these topics. And remember that we are one, and this isn't just a discussion about what I'm saying, but with all of us in understanding. So, without any further ado, let's first begin with what exactly am I talking about? What I'm talking about is simply what distracts you in your everyday life? What is the reason we haven't gotten too focused on what we truly desire out of life? What is distracting you? Think about that for a sec. What is? There are many things that distract us from getting to where our goals are in life and not to where we say we desire to go due to what is constantly rotating on your planet. It could be something you saw on TV. It could be something, a song you heard, or frequency, a sound. It could just simply be the word of mouth, systematic things that people say. Each part plays a key role in how and what you think in life. We are going to go over this, but I am going to leave you with understanding why it's important to pay attention to these things and focus on self, on your own self perseverance. So, the first thing we're going to go over is what exactly, first of all, distracts us. Now, I'd mentioned some of them and I'm going to go over them a bit so you understand in a sense. The first thing, of course, is TV and commercials and videos. Oh, yes, all of this can distract you. And people might say, well, the TV distract me. I don't care for the TV and this and that. Even if I watch it or something, it doesn't matter. But I'd like to give you an example or first understanding how it does that. The ways commercials, of course, distract you is by what we call propaganda. Propaganda was used, of course, several several years back, especially when you're talking about World War II and One, to sway you to believe a certain side, that there was a good person and an evil person, that these were the bad guys and we're the good guys. And this was not just played by, for example, the US. This is played by Europe. This is played in Asia. This is played in all sorts of places that believed certain things. Your TV commercials do the same thing, using images, flash, and sound. But what we're going to focus on are the images in the flash. Now, you might be wondering, how is this possible? Or it can't be. People have their own state of mind. And that is absolutely correct. Everybody has their own state of mind. And they can do whatever they desire. But most of us, however, to a certain degree, do not pay attention to this who do watch TV. I don't personally watch TV. I do watch some videos, of course. Um, and I prefer watching videos because I have more freedom to choose what I desire to watch or listen to or understand if I desire to. And of course, you can do the same with TV. Nothing wrong with that. That's just me personally. When you, for example, talk about the Super Bowl or the World Cup, how do these things manipulate you? It is always known, especially in the Super Bowl, the commercials are amazing, is what people mostly say. Many people watch the NFL at times, not all the time, of course, because people, of course, do like football, but many people watch it for the commercials as well. The commercials are meant to sell you products or make you think in a certain way about certain things. Now, of course, we do have our own mentality. However, we do not realize how we are constantly manipulated by what we see and what is shown and what is flashed on the screen. Not realizing that even certain colors can allow you to think in a certain way. For example, here's a perfect example of you that is based off your chakras. The color red. Many companies have the color red, and the reason why, and some of them use different colors to mix in what can honestly become red. Red is the root chakra and is known for being the pleasure chakra. And what it can do is manipulate the mind into pleasures that may not even be beneficial. We eat poisons, drink poisons, of course, smoke poisons, of course, swallow poisons, and so on and so forth, with no concern or understanding of if this is beneficial. There is, of course, a large group of people who are understanding this part of who they are, but there's still a need to understand this. There's still not a lot of people who are growing and observing these things. That being said, that is one piece to what it does to you. Another thing that is used for manipulation is flashing. Sparks, flashes, what I mean by that, when they show a picture and it pops out and whatnot, you see all these shiny words and everything telling you, oh, this, for example, this is the new greatest phone that came out. You should buy it now. And you just see all that. That is meant for manipulation. And it can sometimes be subliminal without you understanding or without your consent in any ways. But they could care less about your consent. But this is one of them, of course. You do have many other people who use companies where they will use, for example, especially amusement parks, certain wording, or when you talk about big time places like Disney, it will constantly have subliminals of Mickey Mouse. And this can make you think of, you need to buy Mickey Mouse. You need to buy something for Disney. When it might not be necessary, especially due to the high prices of buying certain items from Disney. The next one we're going to go over is sounds, the radio and sounds. The radio And sounds can manipulate you, of course, through certain sounds you can hear, frequencies. And this is more so to focus on music, really, in the sense, or certain sounds you hear. The certain, and of course, let me also put this in. Certain sounds can be used even in, like I said, commercials and TV. And what you may not realize is the certain sounds can be lowered or louder or turned backwards or forward in order to make you think a certain way by saying something in a certain way or the way you use words. You may not realize how words can play off of energy. This is why I have stated to people how interesting we are as humans. We have learned without even trying nor thinking about it, causing the destruction of our own planet using words. And my favorite word or sentence, better yet, is the fact that we say, some say it's the love of money, some say people who love money, but one way or another, the love of money is the root of all evil. It's interesting. And the reason why I say it's so interesting is because it has allowed us to believe that it is the root, which comes from a tree, that is evil, and we cut it down to its root. It's interesting. We're going to actually get further into this, though. But first, understand that, again, certain energies, certain frequencies, certain things that you say in a song or certain commercials that are only through sound can manipulate you by making something louder but hiding in their subliminal. It's just as simple as when you talk about subliminals for when you're saying, for example, I am great, I am the best, and so on and so forth. And I don't know if people out there have heard those things where you have subliminals that are on, for example, YouTube or whatnot, where you can listen to them and whatnot. And sometimes the sound that is around it is louder than the subliminal, so you hear it as a whisper. But they do the same thing with everything else. So different sounds can be manipulated through how the volume, the frequency, and so on and so forth is made. But the frequency itself is made because of vibration. Vibration is you. You are vibration. And think of it like a string on a violin or a guitar. You can easily disrupt the vibration with your finger, which is another vibration that may be somewhat different from the string, but similar. Sounds like a string to you are like the finger that simply presses it. And give or take how hard or how soft you press it, it can possibly cause a certain manipulation of psychology, of thought process, of mentality, of emotions, which of course I would never tell people stop listening to music. That's not at all what I'm saying. But that to be aware of those things, that these frequencies can play a certain tune, if you may, on your own energy. The next thing, of course, is word of mouth. Word of mouth. How does that work exactly? Word of mouth works simply by, for example, the same thing you say over and over can sometimes eventually be true to somebody. It's a very interesting tactic, but we've done it before. When you talk about credit cards, the belief in money, the belief in separation, you've literally talked yourself into believing these things to be true. And you haven't batted an eye. And even I, at one point, believed very deeply in this information. But through these methods, of course, and these are only three I mentioned, there's so many ways. Through word of mouth, we manipulate ourselves into believing something that's false to be true. We've pushed ourselves using fear and doubt to believe there are certain things you need to do in a certain way. Otherwise, all is going to go to hell in a sense. And that is far from the truth. But the main things that distract you of this, and why, in a sense, is, for example, fear of others. We have been manipulated to believe, give or take your color of your skin, that you are a threat. This is what I had stated earlier with separation. We talked ourselves into believing in separation so much that many of us have used, for example, fear of others to create a situation for people to believe that you should be afraid of other people taking over your country. That is the reason why. But truth be told, there should be no fear of that. You are all one. Even in your physical form, you are one. And don't even believe it. You are all the same. You all bleed the same. You all have two eyes, one nose, five five fingers on each side, two hands, and the same with your toes, unless you don't. But that is what you've created, is the belief that there's fear in people, especially when you talk about, for example, immigrants in certain countries coming over and taking over. And sometimes this is played for reasons that are due to others taking over land of natives who've lived there and taking away their rights. And some of this is simply for people who have desired to go to better places than when they were, and of course, getting their rights taken because they are not allowed here. And it's interesting how we play those roles in believing that that is true and this is not, when it's far from the truth to believe we are separated from each other. The next thing would be fear of the end. This has been an interesting one. And we still play this one to this very day. We have played for several upon several different times of years the belief that the world is going to end. The problem with this is, because we believe so fearfully that the world is going to end, we don't take the time to lovingly live for ourselves. We are so fearful of the day that something will strike us down. I've heard sometimes that we're going to hell in a handbasket, and that's far from the truth. But however, what is true is the fact of how we're taking care of our planet can lead us to that point if we do not stop what we are doing at this point and change the direction of what we are doing. However, belief systems will do nothing of the sort. to allow you to believe the world is ending. The world will end not because some omnipotent being stated it. It will end due to the fact that we did not take care of what we are stewards over. And when I say stewards, that means simply we did not take care of what is been given to us at this point in time. The earth was given to us because it is environmentally safe for us as a species. We can breathe here, of course. We can, of course, work here. We can move around without getting any harm from skin, any harm from eyes, our bodily functions. If we step outside or anything, it is beneficial to us because even what's the most beautiful is just two planets sustain the fact of where we're at, us being the third planet from the sun. One planet in front, just one, and our entire axis would be off. And I don't mean just the axis of the planet itself, but the axis of us as a species would not be able to handle those things. It would be near to impossible due to our physiology. So it's interesting how we don't take care of the planet as needed to allow us to go forward and evolve. The next thing is fear of leaders and leadership. And why I state this is because there are two parts to this. And that's why I put leaders and leaderships. There are, of course, many people who are not good people in a sense, or not people that would be beneficial in growing our world. And that is understandable. However, we have not realized that those leaders are not the problem because many of them are just simply playing a role, but realizing that we have to be the leaders in ourselves. We look for leadership in others, and it is understandable perhaps for a certain amount of time to understand self and grow self. But at the same time, growing and seeing leadership within you is more vitally important because you cannot keep growing if you are looking for the answers through someone else. You must eventually learn to be the leader and find those answers for yourself through your own research, through your understanding. And then it doesn't matter what topic of leadership you desire to be in or grow in, but being who you truly are. You see, my example would be myself. People might seem a certain way about what I say and what I do, but this is a first of the kind of what I'm creating. And through my leadership, I'm pushing this forward no matter what. And yes, sometimes being the one to do that can be scary. But it merely means you're going first. You're willing to go first. You're willing to change something first. And that's something that we have to understand, is willing to go first and do what we desire. You cannot be fearful of leaders due to what they say. You must choose to create a change. No matter how terrified you are, getting up on your own two legs and willing to go the mile to change what you desire is a choice. Choose what is necessary, and instead of complaining about the leadership of others. Choose to see the leader in you to create something that is necessary because that is what you deserve. So, what does this have to do exactly with the soul and whatnot? One of the first things that I want you guys to understand out of all that I've stated is the simple fact of what this has to do with the soul is as you are having this experience right now, being on this planet, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, it is simply to pay attention. Pay attention to everything going on. Pay attention to anything, if everything that is happening to you in life. Listen very closely, understand things so that instead of just seeing it as, oh, this is another commercial, oh, that's another sound, or oh, that person's saying whatever, pay attention, observe, listen, be attentive to understand if this is something that works with who you say you are or not. Which leads to number two, be who you truly are. If you are observing these things, it is to allow you to not be what these things are, but be what you choose to be. If you are, for example, a person of peace, it might not suit you to be on certain sides, on this side or that side, or listen to what that person says or what that person says. It might suit you simply to be on what works for self instead of what someone tells you you should be doing for self. It is allowing you to choose what is for you and not what is for someone who says maybe for the greater good or someone who says it's for this person or that person, but simply asking on top of that, does this work with the whole? Does this work for who we are? Does this work for me? Is this beneficial in growing who I truly am and evolving myself in that light? Think about that. The last one being that there's simply nothing to fear. We use fear as a tactic to believe that there are problems on our planet, and we're so indebted to this that we don't get down to the nitty gritty problems of our issues, that simply admitting that we're doing things that are very flawed. And it's not the economy, it's not the money, it's not this state, that state, or anything, but it's our belief system and how we are afraid to change it. And the question might then remain, why are we afraid to change it? We're afraid to change it because to change our economy, or better yet, our economy, to change our entire lifestyle of how we see things would mean to admit that there is something we are doing that is flawed. And it is something as an entire whole of our species we have not been willing to admit. We have not even admitted that there might be a possible different way to systematically do things so that everyone can simply have, decide, choose, or create what they desire in life. But we have not come to that conclusion due to the fact that we have still not realized the flaw in our system. Because to admit it would mean to know there was a flaw. So, in conclusion, we'll be ending it here, but in conclusion, you have many things that distract you from your focus, such as different TV shows and commercials, through different lights, through different colors that make you think in a certain way or feel in a certain way. Certain sounds and frequencies can mess with you through different vibrations. Vibrations, just like the energy you carry, which is vibrational, can affect how you feel about certain things, or perhaps think you feel about certain things. And that word of mouth can at times make you believe that something is true even though it's not. We use this again through fearful tactics and believing that if you say this is true, it must be, and we should be afraid, we should be concerned, instead of seeing, is that really the truth? Is that really who we are? Is that really the true research? We don't research our own information to find ourselves. We go and watch the facts through someone else, even not knowing, even with knowing that they might be telling the truth or not, even with knowing that sometimes many people who do that research have made flawed mistakes, but realizing that we need to look for that information ourselves and find what is necessary instead of being fearful about what is going to happen to this planet or what someone's doing where you live and whatnot, but seriously centering yourself, finding your peace, and realizing, is this who I'm being? Is this really worth being afraid over? Or is there another way? Think about that. And simply, what does it have to do with the soul? With just simply paying attention to things going on around you instead of taking in a bunch of information and then spewing it back out. This isn't supposed to be memorization. This is supposed to be critical thinking, realizing, is this really important to who I am? When I watch news and stuff, I don't really exert it as part of me. I observe, I see it for what it is. Sometimes it does sadden me because of the fact of what is played on this planet. For example, when we're talking about people in shootings and how it numbs out the psychology of the body because we've seen so many shootings. This is even a manipulation of itself without feeling anymore, understanding of self, realizing what you are seeing and what you are observing. But to be who you are, not what someone else tells you. Again, I use the example of peace because it's a simplistic one. Because no matter what side is what side, if it isn't about peace of all, it may not be something for you, no matter whose side it's about. And then last, realizing there is nothing to fear. You have to realize you are in an experience, a humanistic experience that you've chosen to be a part of and create, and that you have a choice. You have no reason to fear because of the fact that you are an infinite amount of energy. One, even at this point in time, if you were to leave this body, you would simply create another body for yourself and go on with life. Whether it means you remember all or you remember nothing is really up to you. But the truth is, there's nothing to fear because you are infinite. You are amazing. You are divine. You are magnificent. You are the gods, the goddesses, and the creators within. So, to everybody out there, I just want you to realize to have a good morning, a great afternoon, and a fantastic evening. And to everybody out there, peace and namaste.